Well, the jury at the Shafia murder trial continues to deliberate this hour. Mohammed Shafia, his wife, and their eldest son are accused of killing 4 female family members. The Crown calls it a so-called honor killing. It's been 4 months since the trial started, and there's a mountain of evidence to sift through. The court heard from 58 witnesses, and there were more than 160 exhibits. CBC's Stephen D'Souza is standing by live outside the courthouse in Kingston, Ontario. So, Stephen, what is the jury up against here?
Well, they're really up against, all of that evidence and testimony that you mentioned, and a lot of it was sensational and dramatic, and trying to parse that out and break it down and look at the cold, hard facts and try to determine if they can be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that they can find a verdict of first-degree murder or second-degree murder here. And that's really the biggest challenge for them. And some of this emotional, sensational testimony that we heard came from wiretap evidence from the father calling his daughters whores, and talking about, in anger, the son and the mother as well, talking about how they felt about the way the daughters behaved and the way they dressed and their actions. And then as well, we heard dramatic testimony from friends and family as well as teachers and support workers talking about the daughters, these young innocent girls coming to Canada trying to live like a lot of their friends did, dress the same way and have relationships, but always living in fear of their parents. So they have to take and separate that testimony from some of the logistical questions that have been brought up by the defense, questioning how the car could end up in the locks, in the Kingston locks, how it could physically end up there, how the women, the victims, could end up dead yet not escape this vehicle where the windows were open and they weren't wearing their seatbelts, how they died in the first place. We heard from pathologists that they did drown, but in fact they could never determine where they actually drowned. So these are a number of questions that the jury is going to be deliberating on, and these are a lot of difficult questions, and as you mentioned, a lot of evidence to go through.
No question. So many stunning details during this trial. And we also know there was some information that the jury did not hear. What can you tell us about that?
Well, three really pertinent pieces of information that the jury did not hear included testimony from an 8-year-old witness who was actually living near the Kingston locks and saw the 2 cars that night, or testified that he saw the 2 cars that night, but his testimony was never heard by the jury. It wasn't, the Crown felt it wasn't strong enough. There was another incident during the day when there was a funeral for for the victims at the home. Mohammed Shafia pulled a knife against his wife Tuba Yaya and was held back by his brother-in-laws. That was an incident the judge felt was too prejudicial and didn't really add anything. As well, there was a case of an immigration lawyer who says that she was offered $10,000 by Mohammed Shafia to deny the immigration application of one of the victims, Rona Amir. So some pieces of information that were not heard by the jury, but nevertheless, there was a lot of information that they did get, and they will be going through all of that in their deliberations.
All right, Stephen, and as soon as a decision does come down, of course, we will go right to you. That's Stephen D'Souza standing by the courthouse in Kingston, Ontario.